All right, guys, so this story right here about Pete Buttigieg really makes me think about a whole lot of things, right? It is truly a fascinating story, as apparently this man went on paternity leave and has been on paternity leave for like 2 months, ever since August, in the middle of a supply chain crisis. Now, you would think that during a crisis like this, right, a crisis that involves a shortage of workers, a shortage of truckers, some issues with transportation, right, that's affecting the everyday American consumers, prices, things like that. You would think that this guy would be on the job, right? He would be on the job. But instead, amidst this crisis, he decides to go on paternity leave and leaves for, again, 2 months straight, right? And apparently that's okay, right? Apparently he's just not needed, right? Apparently, you know, his position is expendable, or at the very least, it seems expendable, which to me is really a sign of bloated government bureaucracy, right? When you have a position that you are the head of, you are the leader of, and we have a crisis, and you can just go away for 2 months and nobody's asking, like, where the hell is this man at, right? Like, what is this man doing? Right? Nobody's asking, right? Your boss does not call you back into work, say, hey, bro, I'm sorry, you got to come in. Okay, we need you. Again, it just goes to show you guys how bloated the government is. I'm just saying. So Pete Buttigieg, apparently people have figured out that this man has just been gone on paternity leave for 2 months, and now he's facing massive backlash over this, right? And we're going to talk about that in paternity leave. But first, I want to read a little bit more about what's going on here so you guys get a better idea of this situation. While Americans worry if they'll be able to afford or even find presents for their children this holiday season, the Biden administration's point person to clear up the supply chain bottleneck, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, has been home playing with his. Besides several recent television hits, Buttigieg has been a stay-at-home dad, Politico reported, out on paternity leave for nearly 2 months amid the spiraling crisis to spend time with his husband and 2 newborn babies. And the Biden cabinet secretary plans to continue to give them home support in the coming weeks, the report said. The news of Buttigieg's daddy daycare comes as dozens of large ships remain stuck in a traffic jam near the Los Angeles coast for more than a month, waiting to dock and unload goods, including toasters, sneakers, bicycles, and cars. A shortage of truckers has also prevented companies from distributing supplies across the country. As the holiday approaches, experts warn that the cost of children's toys is up as much as 10%, noting many in-demand gifts will likely be out of stock soon. Quote, for the first 4 weeks, he was mostly offline except for major agency decisions and matters that could not be delegated. A spokesperson said of Buttigieg's absence in the crisis, he's been ramping up activities since then. At the same time, the secretary will continue to take some time over the next coming weeks to support his husband and take care of his new children. On August 17th, Buttigieg and his husband, Chaspin, revealed that the two had become dads, but said the process wasn't done yet. For some time, Chaspin and I want to grow our family. We are overjoyed to share that we've become parents, the former South Bend, Indiana mayor tweeted. All right, so good for him, I guess. And I have some questions about exactly how this works that we're going to get into in regards to it being 2 men raising kids. But before that, Tucker Carlson had a take on this, right? He had a take on this Pete Buttigieg situation that is facing some backlash because he made a joke regarding Pete Buttigieg being on paternity leave and breastfeeding. Take a listen.
But still, the White House does not seem concerned. Pete Buttigieg has been on leave from his job since August after adopting a child. Paternity leave, they call it, trying to figure out how to breastfeed. No word on how that went. But now he's back in office as the transportation secretary, and he's deeply amused, he says, to see that dozens of container ships can't get into this country.
All right, so obviously Tuck is making a joke, right? He's throwing a joke in there, okay? I do it all the time, right? It's just a joke. But apparently MSDNC took this to heart. They took the joke to heart as Nicolle Wallace, who's a host at MSDNC, did an interview with Pete Buttigieg. And Nicolle Wallace essentially accuses Tucker Carlson of being a homophobe when asking Pete Buttigieg about his comments. Take a look.
From his job since August after adopting a child, paternity leave. they call it. Fox News actually calls it the same thing and offers it to new dads. He went on to say something about breastfeeding, which I would say to Tucker Carlson, don't knock it till you try it. But what are these attacks about?
Well, look, in his case, I guess he just doesn't understand the concept of bottle feeding, let alone the concept of paternity leave. But what's really strange is that, this is from a side of the aisle that used to claim the mantle of being pro-family. What we have right now is an administration that's actually pro-family. And I'm blessed to be able to experience that, as an employee, being able to have the flexibility to take care of our newborn children, which is, by the way, work. It's joyful work. It's wonderful work, but it's definitely work. And we as a society, I think, are starting to do a better job of recognizing that parenting is work, that caregiving is work, and supporting it as such, which is, of course, why the president has proposed paid family leave for all Americans, something most Americans already believe that we ought to do, and something that most highly developed countries pretty much take for granted.
Well, I guess I want to push you on where you think this is coming from, because it's misogynistic, I guess, to think that dads shouldn't also be home. It feels homophobic to suggest that you were trying to figure out breastfeeding. I mean, it feels dirtier than that. How does this attack land for you and Chasten?
I mean, look, this attack is coming from a guy who has yet to explain his apparent approval for the assassination of Harvey Milk. So, obviously we know that there's some dark places where some of these attitudes come from. But I also know that doesn't speak for the country. I don't think that even speaks for most people on the other side of the aisle from the party that I belong to. This is largely a consensus issue, not just the support for families like mine to have a right to marry and right to be treated equally, but also that families in general, moms and dads, ought to be able to support their children, including with paid family leave.
Mr. Secretary, it's...
All right, so I just love how Nicolle Wallace here is so leading with her question, right? And she wants to talk more about Tucker Carlson being a homophobe, or she thinking him being a homophobe, than actually talking about the policy of paid parental leave, right? She wants to talk more about Tucker Carlson, in which she gets Pete Buttigieg to take the bait, and Pete Buttigieg makes a comment about Harvey Milk, who I believe was like one of the first openly gay politicians in like San Francisco or something like that. And there was a guy named Dan White that was convicted of manslaughter. Now, people in the LGBT community call it murder. And apparently, Tucker Carlson was a part of the Dan White Society in high school, I think. And a lot of people have used this as a example of Tucker Carlson being a homophobe, right? Or having some type of hate for gay people. Now, again, I can't speak for Tucker Carlson. I don't know what that situation entails. I have no clue whatsoever, right? All I know is that liberal media is quick to try to pull the, oh, you're a homophobe card, right? But I do believe that Tucker Carlson was making a joke. However, what I really want to talk about here is the whole paternity leave thing, because that's been a debate in the conservative circles. Now, before I get into this, guys, I am not a father yet, okay? So take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm just speaking from theory and observation, okay? I actually like the policy of paternal leave, right? I like the idea of fathers getting paid time off to spend time with their children. However, I have an issue, okay, with the fact that Pete Buttigieg spent like 2 months doing it, okay? Because for the most part, I feel like doing a child's early life, right, when they're newborns, right, maybe up to a year, most of the time they're sleeping, eating, and, using the bathroom on themselves, okay? And I feel like most of that time should be spent with mothers. So I'm in support of maternity paid leave. I'm fully in support of that. I think it's very, very, very important for newborns to spend time with their mothers, especially early on in their life. But I also recognize how important that is for fathers as well, too. So in general, I would think that, when it comes to the whole paternity leave thing, it's probably more important for fathers to get that maybe after a year or two, right, of after their children are born, okay, in which they can spend more time, right? And I fully support that, but I don't support that for 2 months straight, right? Maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, okay? And if the private sector, they want to do that, right, give fathers 2 months off, hey, that's on the private sector. But the government doing that, right? The head of transportation doing a crisis, bruh, I just don't know if I agree with that. Okay, but I do have some questions though, because Pete Buttigieg is married to a man, right? He's in a relationship with another man. So I don't know what the role is. Okay, I don't know who is, more feminine or taking on a more feminine role. I have no clue whatsoever. So Pete Buttigieg could be the person that's, feeding the baby, right, with, the bottle or whatever. He could be the person that's doing that. He could take on the motherly role. But it doesn't look like he's the more feminine one, just doing a little bit of research into his husband. It seems that his husband may be the more feminine one, right? Pete Buttigieg, I believe, is the breadwinner here, right? So he may be taking on the most masculine role. So you would think that, he would be more like the father and take less time off. He doesn't necessarily need 2 months. I don't think men need 2 months off to spend time with newborns. But then again, he does have 2 of them, right? And I guess 2 could be a handful. I don't know, right? I don't know. I'm just saying I have more questions than answers. I just believe that 2 months is a little bit excessive. And I think that it is a sign that our government is bloated, or that there's some severe incompetence going on if the head of transportation can just leave for 2 months straight during the middle of a crisis that is affecting and impacting a lot of Americans in their pocketbooks, their wallets, right? I think that's an issue, okay? So I'm not necessarily knocking the concept of paternity leave, right? Because I think it's important for fathers to spend time with their children, especially as much as conservatives complain about all these women out here that are living lives of thottery, right? Because they don't have fathers in their lives. They didn't spend enough time with their fathers, so they end up doing things that will make their fathers not proud. I think that for the party that complains about a lot of that stuff, we should be in favor of dads spending more time with their children, right? I think we should be for those type of policies. But like anything in life, it shouldn't be excessive. I think 2 months is a little bit excessive, right? I do believe that men should be the breadwinners. And I do recognize that there's some conservatives out there that believe that women shouldn't work at all and that men should be, the sole income earners in the household. And I'm just not sure if that's the society that we're living in or if we're ever going to go back to that. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.